Thanks for joining me today for episode 173 of Think Big Podcast with Michael Zellner, sponsored by Sleepy Z's Masonry. My guest today joining me for part two of my podcast interview with her is Dr. Sheila Nazarian. Dr. Nazarian is a Jewish Iranian American plastic surgeon and very vocal advocate for the state of Israel and also the importance of electing Donald Trump president on November 5th. She is a frequent guest on Newsmax, Fox News, and on News Nation. She's very well known as the host of the Netflix television series Skin Decision, and she also starred in The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She was named Iranian Jewish Women's Organization Woman of the Year in 2016. Welcome back to the show, Doc.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. The title of an article written about you in late June 2022 was titled, quote, Dr. Sheila Nazarian won't be silenced, unquote. I follow you on Instagram where you have over 850,000 followers. Amazing. And also follow you on, Twitter X. Mm-hmm. And you're definitely not silent at all. One of your Instagram posts from a few years ago said, quote, and I think it's on X too, if you are silent when terrorists murder Israelis, stay silent when Israel defends itself, unquote. That post was about over a year before October 7th, 2023. It's always Israel that gets attacked first. And every single time Israel responds to defend itself or does something to ensure the long-term stability of the country, us Jews, we get attacked all over the world. Why do you believe it is that way? And is there any hope for that to change?
Well, I think the only hope for, it's anti-Semitism, pure and simple. When there's double standard against a nation or a people, it's anti-Semitism as far as, Israel and the Jews are concerned. So right. Name me one country, Michael, that gets attacked and then hate for those people goes up. No. Literally never. Any country that gets attacked, sympathy for the people of that country goes up.
Yep.
Not, even before Israel defended itself after October 7th, on October 8th, people started marching in the streets and spewing, intifada and violence against Jews. And right. So that's, it's sort of like that anti-Semitism that had been brewing, hadn't come to the surface, and then just sort of volcano erupted. So it's plain and simple anti-Semitism. I love to point out the hypocrisy. I love to show people, you're a feminist, but you support rape. Right. So it's just the mental gymnastics and soul rot and lack of critical thinking skills that have come to the surface. I just did 7 hours of filming on Sunday with a program run by Jubilee on YouTube where they bring, 25 Trumpers and 25 Harris people. And of course, I'm the one that's chosen to debate one-on-one on the topic of Israel and the Middle East policy.
Sure.
And, they come with the ICJ is saying war crimes against Israel. And I'm like, well, who brought the ICJ case? South Africa. Great answer. Right. Why? Because they were broke. They were 3 months behind on paying their government employees. And Iran came in and said, if you do this, we'll pay your debt. 1. 2 weeks ago, they actually had to delay the case for lack of evidence. So, there's just so much the little sound bites that these little sheep keep putting out to, sort of stay in line with this intersectionality, which makes no sense. Right. And it's a lack of information. But, they're just so dedicated to the progressive cause and talking points that they've really lost their soul. They've lost their critical thinking skills. They've lost their ability to formulate their own opinion. And so for me, it's very easy to go on social media and point all of these things out.
Did you have any success with your debating?
Well, I know the other guy was super flustered because one of my actually from PragerU was on set at the same time and went to go talk to somebody else sitting next to the guy that debated me. And then as soon as he walked up, he goes, what do you want? And he goes, well, I'm not here to talk to you. Clearly he was super flustered. But, they come up with the same points every time, Michael. And I want your, audience to know how to fight back. So when they say, apartheid, you ask them, where are your Jews, right? So you look at Yemen, Syria, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, all these places went from tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Jews down to like less than 50, and in some countries, 0 or 1. You look at Gaza, 0 Jews. You look at the West Bank, 0 Jews. In fact, the tomb of Rachel, our matriarch from the Torah, is buried in the West Bank, and we can't even go visit the tomb of our own matriarch because you'll get lynched. So this whole idea of apartheid, yeah, no Jews are allowed in Gaza or the West Bank and many other of these, Islamist colonialist countries, because God knows Islam started in the Arabian Peninsula, didn't get to all of North Africa and the rest of the Middle East by asking nicely.
Right.
We know that. And so, that's the true apartheid is really in those countries, whereas in Israel, they hold all sorts of positions, including government and judicial positions, the Arab Israelis, number one. Number two, colonialism. So the argument for that, Michael, and I want everybody to hear this, is, Judaism predates the current definitions of religion and ethnicity. So Judaism is the only religion that shows up on genetic testing. So when I did my genetic testing, it showed that I was Italian, Greek, Indian, and Jewish because I come from Judea. So
Right.
I am indigenous to that land. How could I be occupying a land that I am indigenous to? That's like saying the American Indians are occupying America. No, they're indigenous to America. So that whole argument is very easy to fall apart. And no other religion, by the way, shows up on genetic testing. Christianity doesn't and Islam doesn't because they come after those definitions. They're not there. And if you look at Palestinians' genetic testing, and you can Google this, the AI will give you the answer right away. Palestinians' genetic testing is from Egypt and from Jordan. That's why a lot of the Palestinians' last name is Al-Masri. Mesr in Farsi means Egypt.
Oh.
So, you can Google it right now. The AI Google will let you know where they come from genetically. So that goes that one. And then, so we did apartheid, we did colonialist. What's the last one that they always say?
Racist.
Well, race, that's another good one. Racist.
Yeah.
So they say the Jews are white.
All right.
70% of Israel is non-white. 70%. They look like me or darker. So there goes that argument as well. So, I mean, every time they bring up something, it's just so easy to send their world crumbling down because it's not based in fact and truth. But I think the challenge for Jews and allies is distilling it down to a soundbite, instead of being like, well, let me tell you about the 1948 da 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 da.
Right.
But I think that I've been very successful, thank God, in doing that. And so that's why it's given a lot of confidence, I think, to a lot of other people to start standing up and saying, like, no, not actually. Here's 1 or 2 sentences why.
I love Dennis Prager, by the way. Prager, you.
I love him too. I interviewed him last month, and then I was on a panel, and he was the next speaker after the panel. So I got to see him twice in 1 week. It was great.
That's awesome. When you look back to what October 7th, October 8th, obviously Hezbollah did what they did. And it was like immediately the stuff, that happened on campuses, it was like planned, like, Soros, Rockefeller,
It's not even Soros or Rockefeller. Yeah, they might have funded a lot of it, but actually they found the funding came from Iran.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess how the coup happened in Iran? The exact same way. Same playbook. Campus protests. Same thing. When the campus protests were being broken up at UCLA, Michael, the police used those flashbangs. Right. And, Westwood, which UCLA is in, it's in Westwood, is called Tarantulas. So it's Little Iran. We actually have Iran Square. We have Tehran, like literally all the Persians lived in Westwood, right around UCLA. All of them that were first generation came here from Iran said it sounded exactly like Iran that night.
Wow.
It sounded like exactly pre-revolutionary Iran. They're like total PTSD. So it's not just Iran that was actually proven to have been funding the campus protests here in America. Not only are they funding it, they're using the exact same playbook. So when I say listen to the Persian Jews, and why are the Persian Jews the ones that are the loudest right now? Look at all the students on the campuses that are going in front of Congress and testifying. They're all Persian, except for maybe 2.
Right.
Because we live this. This isn't 75 years ago. This is our own parents, or in my case, myself. So we've seen this before. We've smelled this before. We've heard these sounds before. And we are here to scream at the top of our lungs, watch out. We know where this is headed. Listen to us.
And, the people that you talk to, I mean, most of them on college campuses, obviously, I mean, we know there's paid protesters, that are there. And like you said, the money coming from Iran. Do you think a lot of what they're learning, some of the people that don't really even know what river, what sea, or anything else, you think it's from things like TikTok videos and things too?
Well, if like two things, like me just in person spending 7 hours on Sunday with 25 Harris people, they are not like emotionally solid kids. I'll tell you that. One of them, when she kept speaking to me and saying lie after lie after lie, or like misinformation or something she must have learned from somewhere. I don't know, definitely not factual. I kept correcting her. I was like, no, it's not an occupation. No, I will not concede that it's an occupation. No, I will not da 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 da. And the girl sitting next to her is like, shut the fuck up to me. So that's how she's talking to her professors and her parents at home. If she's talking to me, way older than her, I could be her mother, a physician. Like, if you're talking to me that way, I know how you're talking to everybody else. You're completely unemployable. You're antisocial. You don't understand politeness or social grace. So these are just, to me, from what I've witnessed, kids that are purposeless, lonely, have been left out of social circles. And this gives them a purpose. It gives them friends. It gives them something to live for, to be honest. I mean, that's what I've noticed. If we take these kids and give them a purpose, like literally take them to a food shelter and have them help out there, probably that's a better way to do things than, allow them to be on these campuses talking about things they don't know.
Right. A few months ago, anti-Israel agitators vandalized statues at, Washington, D.C.'s Lafayette Square. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton said, quote, anti-American pro-Hamas thugs desecrated the statues of our veterans literally across the street from the White House, a blatant violation of federal law. I expect the Department of Justice to use every technique against them they used against grandmas and MAGA hats on January 6th. And if it doesn't now, it will next year, unquote. Of course, nothing was done to any of those people, as we know. Of course, there were a small number of violent people on January 6th that did a few things, very small amount of people that did it. But most were nonviolent. Most were let in when the Capitol Police opened the doors.
I watched the videos where they were actually escorted in.
Right, exactly. When Tucker Carlson played the videos. And then, the next day he was, I think, sort of told, no, don't do that anymore. But he played enough videos to where, I guess, the shamanat or whatever he was called.
Yeah, they opened the door for him and let him in.
Yeah, and they're escorting him around. I think that actually helped them get out of jail.
Yes.
They were peacefully protesting something they strongly believed in.
Right.
And what's wrong if you're peacefully, once again, the ABC produced, hearing against Donald Trump for January 6th, they left out the words at the end where he said peacefully and patriotically protest.
Right.
And people don't understand that is done purposely. It's gaslighting. It's brainwashing.
It is.
It works.
Before you move on to Michael, I just want to say shout out to Tom Cotton. I mean, I've watched him on TV a couple times. Tom, if you're listening, huge fan over here. He is so poised. He is such a good speaker. He's so knowledgeable. I've just been super, super impressed. So shout out to Tom Cotton.
He was on Mark Levin the other night, Life, Liberty, and Levin. And
I love Mark.
Yeah. And Tom was awesome. Obviously very knowledgeable and very, very pro-Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those people should have gotten, or most of them were just a little misdemeanor instead of people, trying to ruin their lives and many of them spending several years in jail.
Yes.
I remember things being a little bit differently back in the quote summer of love in 2020, when violent people in Minneapolis, Tim Walz's home state, burned down a police station. They let them burn it down. The mayor just said, let it go. They burned down businesses. They burned down grocery stores, all mostly in Black neighborhoods where these people were like, This is where I go to get my medicine. I don't know what I remember a woman crying on television about it. So violence, and nothing happened to any of those people. And there were violence, there were people killed. Something happened to a few of those people, but most of them, nothing. Why is it always double standards between Democrats and Republicans?
Because that's how they do things. And honestly, I have to give it to them. They're brilliant at it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the Republicans and the conservatives should take a page. Like they literally, it was so funny after, Kamala Harris was appointed vice president with no votes, right? And the censorship stuff came out on social media that they're trying to censor everybody and get rid of like basically free speech on social media. I watched one of Harris's campaign rallies, and the hype guy that goes on before she comes out was like, "This is democracy." And literally this whole crowd is chanting, "This is democracy." Whereas like you just got screwed on your democracy, but you're chanting, "This is democracy." It's like everything they accuse other people of is what they're guilty of.
Yeah.
And then whatever they are doing, they will chant the opposite to say, no, we're the good guys. I mean, it is like total backwards world. And the shocking part to me is the realization of how gullible, naive, and with a lack of critical thinking skills these people are to go along with it.
I know.
Like so many people have woken up though, Michael. So many people, like what you said in the beginning before we got on, your realizations over time about divisiveness, and when, you thought, let me vote for Obama and it'll bring people together, where like led to more divisiveness. I think people who do have their critical thinking skills are waking up. But there's still some really intelligent people, Michael, that I know that are super successful.
Me too.
That come up to me and they're like, "But what about democracy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what about democracy? Like freedom of speech. What about freedom of speech? What about actually electing our government officials? Like who is actually running the country right now?"
I know,
who's running the country right now?
Scary.
Harris is running around doing, campaign things, going on sex podcasts. And, Biden was at the beach 2 days ago.
Right.
So like who's running the country? And the answer is, which is crazy, the country will run without leadership. It's happening right now. It's just not running well.
Right. Exactly. One of the things that I did, I'd never watched the Charlottesville tape. I never saw any of it. And of course, all I knew was what I was told all the time.
I posted that.
And I decided to go on, and YouTube and type in Charlottesville, and I couldn't believe it. CNBC, the video pops up.
Right.
And so I watched it the first minute, and he said, "No, there's fine people on both sides." I'm like, "Oh my God." He did say it. And I kept watching. And a minute later.
It wasn't a minute. It was the next sentence.
Right. He was like, "Right. No, I'm not talking about the white supremacists or the Nazis or anything like that."
No, he actually said, "I'm not talking about the Nazis or the white supremacists who I condemn."
Yes.
And it was literally the sentence right after, "There are good people on both sides."
Right.
I'm not talking about, like, it was literally the next sentence. You can go watch it.
Right. So I showed it to my mom, who is voted probably liberal most of her life.
Yeah.
And I showed her just the first part of it and stopped it. And she goes, "Yeah, that's what I've seen. He did say it." I kept having her watch, and she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "I've never seen that." And I go, "It's because the media purposely does that to divide people and to gaslight you." And so over time, she has been watching stuff with me, different shows. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could, there's so many people that I wish I could," but so many of them won't even, it's like, you have facts. Ben Shapiro says, "Facts don't care about your feelings." You have the facts, you have the videos, you have the sheets, you have all the proof in the world. They don't want to look at it. They don't want to read it. They don't want to watch it. And I'm not saying everybody.
No, but I'll tell you why, Michael, because you literally, like, this has either become their religion, right? Or their entire social life, connections, community is built around this belief system. Right. So for them to wake up, and I've heard this from so many people, Michael, that literally, like, one of my friends, Xavier, who's with PragerU now, I don't know if you follow him, but he was a Black Lives Matter activist who wanted to create like a show where he debunks Candace Owens. So he started researching all the things she was saying and ended up red pilling himself, and now he's a huge conservative voice, right? So unless someone really puts in the time to go and watch the videos like you did, but the fact is a lot of people don't do that. And the media takes advantage of that, and social media takes advantage of that. But I mean, honestly, thank God though that we do have social media.
Yes.
Because otherwise, all we would have is propaganda on TV, and God knows where that's going. I mean, literally, it's going straight to where Iran is. Like, it's just literally media propaganda. It's like government run.
I know, and I tell people all the time. I go on X, and I'll download I actually went on there and paid the money because you had to pay a little bit of money. It wasn't much, like $4 a month, to be able to download videos.
Right.
So I've been posting them. For a long time, I didn't post politics on my page, because I was like, oh, I don't want to isolate people on my podcast. And then I said, F it, about 2 months ago, and started doing it. And I just started doing it because that's exactly right. I'm like, it is too important. And I know that, hey, some people might not like it. I've lost a few friends. I know you talked about how you lost thousands, of followers. I think your first couple of days that you started speaking out and everything. But I said, this is just too important. People have to know the truth. Yeah.
And also, I mean, again, loving this country so much and appreciating every opportunity it's given me and my family, watching it go down the same path that Iran did, I can't stay silent. Like my life would be a lot easier if I did. I'll tell you that. Yeah. But I just know the lives of my kids won't be easier. And so that's why I speak up.
Absolutely. What motivates you to keep going, keep fighting, even, every day, even though I know you obviously have obstacles that come up all the time?
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, it's literally, I go to like bar mitzvahs and weddings and just out in the street. I was literally driving down Sunset Boulevard and this guy walking in front of my car goes, and I was like, oh shit. At first I got scared. Then I was like, oh, hey, thank you. Right. So no, I literally do it for my own family. And people come up to me and thank me at parties and like, thank you so much for everything you do for the community. And I'm like, the true essence of Tikkun Olam, heal the world. If you read that passage, it doesn't mean go out and heal the world. It means like heal your home, heal your community, and that will have ripple effects on the world. So I always tell people, always do what's like, you heal your family, like do what's for your family, keep them safe, and it will have ripple effects to the whole world. You don't need to go, if your family is in shambles and your relationship with your own family is in shambles, start there. That's Tikkun Olam, not this progressive definition of, oh, let's go help every other country. Like when we sent this whole like coalition to Turkey after the Turkish earthquakes, and then, the Turkish leader comes and says like, Israel doesn't have the right to exist. Right. What is this like infatuation? Michael, maybe you can answer this question for me. What is this infatuation of the Jewish people, mostly Ashkenazi Jews, of doing things for people who hate us? Like I don't get it, and it's like the same thing with, unfortunately the kibbutzes that were attacked during October 7th. I asked these families the same thing. Why didn't you listen to us? We told you these people, they want you dead. Why didn't you listen to us? And, one of the men who just was like, had his whole family, like either taken hostage or killed. He said, my religion was peace and my religion's been shattered. Like, but it's like, what will it take for people to understand, like, heal ourselves first? Like, you don't have to go doing things for people who don't want to see you alive. Right. And a lot of these people that don't even realize, like, a lot of the LGBTQ people that are out there, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I don't care. Do whatever you want. Just don't throw it in my face. I remembered what was the third thing that people always say: genocide. Right. Okay. Right. So when I was filming on Sunday, one of the conservative trans people actually said, there's genocide, But like the population of the Palestinians in Gaza, Israel, and the West Bank has gone from 500,000 in the 1940s to 5 million. Wow. You know, the Jews are really good at so many things, but they're really shitty at genocide. You know, like why did they pause the war to vaccinate every Gazan child against polio? Why? Why are they bringing Gazan cancer patients, even during war, into Israel to treat their cancers? Why? Why is this the lowest or one of the lowest civilian to combatant death rates? Usually it's 8-1 civilians to one combatant. This one's 2-1. It's one of the lowest civilian to combatant death rates of any war ever fought, ever, despite Hamas hiding behind the civilian population.
Right.
Despite that. So imagine the accuracy, imagine the care and the thoughtfulness this army has to put in to minimize civilian casualties by 4 to 5 times any other war. Right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's just this, like, that's the other thing that was like complete bullshit. Yeah, they're, you know, like, if any of you, by the way, to your audience, a real genocide is like the Holocaust. We went from 10 million to 4 million.
Yep.
That's a genocide. Genocide is not going from 500K to 5 million. That's not a genocide.
Right. And Hitler's goal obviously was go to 10 million to 0.
Mm-hmm.
If he had continued to do what he was doing. And and LGBTQ people, they would be thrown off a roof. Anyone who's gay, thrown off a roof, they would kill them immediately. And it's
There's a video, you guys can look it up, by Ami Horowitz, where he goes to San Francisco and he interviews people from, the queer community.
Yeah.
And he says, whose side are you on? Like Gaza or Israel? And they said, of course, Gaza, like, intersectionality, blah, 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 blah. Then he shows them these videos that he did with the people in Gaza, like at great risk to himself, where he asked them, what's worse, to be a murderer or to be gay? And they said it's worse to be gay than a murderer. And so when he showed these videos to these people in San Francisco, they were like, oh, I didn't know that. I mean, it's just like, it's just a lack of information. I think the mistake that a lot of us make is we think that everyone has the same information.
Right.
And they don't.
It's just like, when you tell people, I've watched both CNN and Fox and Newsmax and News Nation just to see, a little bit of everything going on. I just refuse to watch MSNBC. Joe Scarborough.
Total mouthpiece.
Oh my God. Yeah. And so, CNN finally has somebody on there now. I think Scott Hastings, that's out there speaking and they're letting him talk, and be able to get some points across. I don't know if it's changing anyone's mind, but maybe hopefully that it is, and so, but if people just watch MSNBC all day long and that's all they watch, they don't know anything. If they're not on the internet or anything, all they know is the propaganda that they're spewing.
But just to give you a little bit of hope, this is a stat that I saw. Fox News has more viewers than all of the other news networks put together. All of them.
Right.
So
yeah, I saw that pop up on the screen. Yes, that's right. And they had more people watching the debate on their channel than the one that actually had the debate going on.
Yeah. So that there's some hope there. And I love going on Fox because, I really get to shape the way people will question things. I get to shape, how they might view things from a different perspective, from my lived experience. So I'm just so grateful.
Trace Gallagher.
I love Trace.
He's my favorite. He is my favorite on there. Yeah. It's 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock when he comes on here.
Yeah.
I watch it every single night. And if I don't, I tape it and I watch it the next day. He's just so
wonderful, and so gracious and generous, and
very informed.
Yes.
Very
informed and very morally clear. You know what's something interesting, just on the Trace topic, because we love Trace. At first when Trump was coming and, there people were saying like, stop attacking Kamala on this and that, just stick to the policies and all this stuff. So I was talking to him about that backstage and he goes, Sheila, would you say the same thing to Harris? Would you tell her to like stop attacking Trump's, character and all this stuff? No. So why should he stop attacking her character? And I was like, good point.
Very good point.
Very good point.
Very good point.
Yeah.
I watched an interview you did on News Nation several months ago on the Dan Abrams Live
Mhm.
You told them that, many American Jews are caught between their, longtime liberal values and supporting Israel. I just saw a poll, not that I think polls are accurate, because we
Yeah.
obviously know in 2016 and 2020 they were way off.
Mhm.
But it said in the swing states that 65% of Jews
Yep.
support Kamala Harris. And I
Oh,
looked at that and I'm like thinking, that is absolutely insane. And
I
this
think
is
it's flipping. When did you see that?
like 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah,
I
but
saw one from like a month ago that was like New York Jews are 50-50 now.
right. This was just
Yeah.
talking about the swing states, just the
Got
swing
it, got
states
it.
only.
Okay, okay, got
And
it.
so
I
I
have
was like,
work to do then. Thanks for telling me. Now
yes.
I'm even more motivated. Okay.
And so I'm like, that at first I'm like, I don't think that's accurate, number one. But still, even if it's, 55-40, it goes through my mind how, and I know so many of them, I'm sure you do too, how so many people who are Jewish can support her when, you saw where 60 Minutes edited and you've seen both answers
Yep,
on Israel and Netanyahu.
yep.
And it's just unbelievable. You talk with Dan about this. So many Jewish people just refuse to vote anything but Democrat, no matter how they feel about Israel. Why?
It is a progressive cult. Like you basically have to admit that you're wrong. And I think that's really difficult for a lot of people, not just Jews. Like you've been
Sure.
wrong. Um, I think that's really, really hard, number one. Number two, again, I just think this whole brainwashing thing it has not spared the Jews. Like I told you, like I've had some really smart friends come to me and they're like, I'm really afraid for democracy, like just like, and they're like, and also they accept crumbs. So Kamala Harris plants a tree on October 7th.
Right.
Trump is like with rabbis wearing a kippah, praying, like in front of 10 American flags and 10 Israeli flags. He is, constantly engaging with the Jewish community. Kamala's always both siding it. She can't say anti-Semitism without saying Islamophobia in the same
Right.
sentence. But
Yes.
like they'll accept crumbs. They'll accept the crumbs and they hold on to those crumbs rather than saying like, no, I want unequivocal, unwavering, like allyship, and they don't demand that. It's the same reasons why they didn't see the anti-Semitism in the Black Lives Matter organization's charter. The same reason why they kept marching at the Women's March, even though Linda Sarsour was on stage spewing
Oh,
anti-Semitism. It's their religion, it's their dedication, it's their social circles, it's their community service, it's everything. So, like Xavier, to step away from that means you're going to lose those people. You're losing that community, you're losing that identity, you are losing your friends, you might lose some family members. I mean, it is like it's very, very difficult. And even I saw, this Jewish podcaster, he put, how Trump was standing with the family of one of the survivors, holding the picture of the survivor, but he was smiling. Maybe because they had just said something to make him smile. And they're like,
sure.
how could he be holding a picture of a survivor and smiling? I mean, it's like this man can pull a drowning child out of the ocean and they'll say that he took the food away from the sharks.
Right. One thing Bernie Sanders about several weeks ago said the quiet part out loud on TV, that she's saying whatever she has to do to get elected. All
Exactly.
those videos that are out there from the last 10 years completely go against everything she or, some of the people that work for her, because most of the time it's not her, or, now. And the fact of it is, she's not going to build a wall.
No.
They plan on giving asylum and citizenship to every one of those illegals that are here, even all those.
So that there'll never be a Republican candidate ever
Exactly.
again, and we're in a one-party system.
Absolutely, and that was
Exactly.
the plan the whole time.
The whole time, and we called it 3 years ago.
And then she's like, "Oh well, Trump called all these people on the bill." I'm like, I tell some of my friends, go online and read the bill. Go read the bill.
I posted it, you guys. I posted it. It had about 8 other things attached to it, including us like passing a lot of asylum, like 1.6 million,
right,
including Ukraine, more money, including it was like and six other things. So first of all, this was not a clean bill, number one. Number two, you don't even need a bill. You just need to like actually execute the laws that are currently passed. So basically, they let in 10 to 16 million illegals, right, over the last 3.5 years. Then they try to pass a bill for border security. Well, they're all already here.
Yes.
Are you insane? Like you let them all in and now all of a sudden you're tough on the border. They're all here and their cousin and their mother and their best friend.
And they get free everything.
Free everything. You know, there's another thing I posted on my stories this morning about like opening up more, apartment buildings and hotels in New York City to house these migrants. You know, how about we take care of our own people? I mean, you know how much strain this is? I'm a physician. You know how much strain this is on the healthcare system? What do you think the county hospitals look like? What did they look like before? What do you think they're going to look like now? I mean, This is insanity.
And yeah, they're getting free health care. And that's where they go, to the emergency room anytime that they need to be seen.
Yeah. And when was the last time you went into an emergency room and you walked straight in? The wait times, remember how long they were? Like, imagine what they're going to be like now.
That's what my dad, God bless his memory, always told me. He goes, if you ever need to go, call an ambulance, because that way you're assured to go straight to the back. If not, you could be waiting there for hours. You know, another thing that people, I think, don't realize is all the squad members have been really quiet, you know,
they really have.
Yeah. And why would they be quiet? You know, she's trying to appease both sides. It's because obviously there was a backdoor deal made. Let me say whatever I could say to get elected. And once I'm in there, there's nothing they're going to be able to do about it. And you know that I'm going to protect you and all those, I mean, anti-Semites that are in Congress that, I mean, they laughing behind anything that goes on. They won't, I mean, it's just like unbelievable, but they have been quiet. And, you know, you would have thought they would, I mean, they were pretty loud when Joe Biden was running. Yep. And then when she got in there, everything changed. And Bernie Sanders, like I said, he said it. She's going to go back and she's just saying whatever she can do to get elected. And the sad thing is she's horrible at saying everything. She can't, oh my gosh, she cannot think on her feet without a teleprompter. Did you see where the teleprompter got stuck the other day? That was so funny.
I know. Terrible.
I mean, and when she
kept saying, the scary part is we're not the only ones seeing it. Our foreign adversaries are seeing this.
Yes.
You know, and that's the scary part to me. Like, to me, Michael, I, always, when I look at these candidates, I lump things into, domestic policy and foreign policy. And, as much as even our side, even the conservatives, like I was sitting next to like an ex-military guy. He was in private security, all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, we just need to stop sending money to Ukraine and Israel. And I'm like, first of all, Israel's not Ukraine, number one. Okay. Right. Number two, Israel just took out that Hezbollah guy that was responsible for killing 142 Marines.
Yeah, 1983.
So yeah, Israel and America, like America depends on Israeli intelligence for American safety. Like, this is not like a relationship where it's like, not a give and take. This is 100% America needs Israel and needs their intelligence, needs their technology. And Israel's doing America's dirty work. Two of the leaders Israel killed already, America had a reward on their head. One of them was $7 million reward. The other one was a $5 million reward for whoever can get these terrorists that are responsible for American military member deaths. And so when I told him that, he's like, oh, like again, like right. People don't realize, that Israel is on the front lines of Western values. The other thing too, that I came to the realization of listening to these people speak, I mean, one of them actually stood up and said, I'm not one of them, a lot of them, they hate capitalism. And then one of them actually stood up and said, I am a Marxist. Like, seeing as how many people have died from those, government ideologies. And it's just, I just have to say, like, she can't be a bad person. She's just misinformed or uninformed.
You got to see Donald Trump, I believe it was in New Jersey. Was it Bedminster?
Bedminster. Mm-hmm.
And because I watched the video, it was your video. I got to see the speech when you did it. And Congressman David Kustoff was there. He's from Memphis. I grew up with him. Yeah, and he introduced him, and said, but the people that call Trump anti-Semite, that is one of the things that just gets me. And when I try to explain to them logic, like, His daughter converted to Orthodox Judaism. His son-in-law's Orthodox Jew. His grandkids are raised Orthodox Jew. I go, you don't understand how hard it is to become an Orthodox Jew.
No, it's not even that, Michael. Like, I went to the Israel American conference in DC, and I saw him there again a month after Bedminster. He came to that conference, the Israel American conference. Harris was invited, Biden was invited. They didn't show up. They never show up. And I always say, picture's worth 1,000 words. Show me one picture of Harris where she's standing in front of an Israeli flag. I can show you 10 pictures of Donald Trump where he's addressing the Jewish people with a row of American and Israeli flags behind him.
Yeah, you're right. I can't think of one time I've seen her standing in front of it.
Never. She never would, because she plays both sides. She gives crumbs to this side and then, goes on the other side and says, we should really condemn, saying Islamic terrorism. Well, what the hell else is it?
And she's meeting with the radical mayor of Dearborn, Michigan.
Yes.
And
yes, I'm a physician. You cannot treat something you cannot accurately diagnose. You must diagnose first accurately and then apply the correct treatment, right? So we can't save this country. We can't come together. We can't do any of that stuff until we say things truthfully for what they are.
I was thinking of something the other day, and I thought about posting this, and I still might post it before this goes out next week. If a doctor was about to operate on a heart patient, and then, and they're about to put the patient under anesthesia, and the patient was awake, and the doctor walked in and had, I don't know, American flag lapel or a Trump button. And this was like the best, cardiac surgeon, maybe in the country, the world, whatever. Yeah. Are you going to not let that person operate on you because he's a Trump supporter?
Oh, I've had it happen. I will answer that question for you. I had a lady come in to my office. We were getting along really well. She'd watched my show on Netflix. She wanted me to operate on her. And we got on the topic of politics, as sometimes happens. And I told her, of course, I support President Trump. Never came back. So the answer is yes, they will not have you operate on them.
Oh, my gosh. That's just unbelievable. It's just that bad. And he's not an angel, and none of us are. We all have stuff that, no one, you know what I mean? But just the derangement syndrome that some of these people have.
It is a complete derangement syndrome. Like I said, with that, Jewish podcast guy, literally Trump is there with the family, on October 7th, praying with rabbis, kippah on his head. And he says, why is he smiling while he's holding up a hostage poster? Well, I don't know. Maybe because the hostage family said something to him, like, we appreciate you so much. And he smiled and he said, thank you. Like,
right. And they were on video talking about how much they appreciated him. Kamala Harris was in Washington that day, right down the street, wouldn't come over there or anything.
Will not, I'm telling you, she will not show up for the Jewish people. And these deranged Jews will accept crumbs.
I don't understand it. I really don't. It's so hard to understand how they can't see it. But till I'm blue in the face to some people. And they're just like, he is just a horrible man. He's done this. He was convicted this. He's committed. I said, oh my God. Like, even the woman that convicted him of rape. Yeah. Can't even remember when it was. She wore a dress on the cover of Vanity Fair that DNKY said wasn't even made. She said, this is what I was wearing. They said it wasn't even made then. And then she was on Anderson Cooper talking about how rape is sexy. And Anderson Cooper even went to break because he's like, this is a little bit weird. And I'm like, he wasn't even convicted criminally. It was civilly. He's appealing it. In the appeal, they've even said, the judges have said, this is just a little bit overboard, but it does not matter. They just have that syndrome where they're just like, I don't care. I'm not voting for him. I'm like, even though you think the country is heading 65, 70% of the people think we're heading in the wrong direction, you won't vote for someone who you didn't like his tweets, and maybe he's a meanie or an asshole sometime, but he got stuff done and we had no wars, but you still won't vote for him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I just
Like
don't.
and I don't know, Michael, what do you think it is? Like, what do you think is the reason why like they're so like committed? Like you went back and forth, right? You know, you looked at the candidates, you decided who you wanted to go for. You might regret it a little bit later, but you went back and forth.
Sure.
So what do you think, like what do you see in your community of the people? Because I'll tell you, like in, you know, Nashville, they're very progressive Jews. I mean, like that community is like
Yeah.
super progressive. So are you seeing any sort of shift?
No, most of the Orthodox Jews in Memphis support Trump.
Of
Uh,
course. Talking
yeah.
about the progressives,
Yeah.
like the more liberal.
No.
Why? What do they
Very
say to
few.
you?
Yeah, very few. Just the derangement center. He's a horrible man. He doesn't really back Israel. They don't believe, you know, what he says and all that stuff there. And they just think he's just that bad. And all the stuff, they believe everything that the media says about him, all the trials against him, everything that, you know, are sham trials. And obviously, if he wasn't running for president, we know they would have never, you know, gone after him for anything. They just don't believe it. I mean, Bruce Pearl recently came here and spoke, and the coach of Auburn basketball at the Jewish Community Center here about Israel and also the importance of electing Trump, and the majority of the people there, Orthodox.
Right.
Most of the progressives just don't want to hear it, and there's so many people that are good people, but they still.
No, I know, but it's just like it's shocking to me because when I look, you know, at least my community or the people I'm surrounded by, like, you know, we value education so much, and we value hard work, and we value like reading, you know, to the point where we force all of our kids to like literally lead services in another language and learn that by the age of 12 and 13. You know, like we're all like going through our bar and bat mitzvahs, like it's that valued. So it's just really crazy to me how this one thing is the one thing that facts don't matter. Or
Right.
I don't know, maybe they're getting different facts. Like I'm so confused by it.
I had one friend of mine who is a progressive Jew and really smart girl. But she said, he called all the people that died, you know, over, was it France, suckers and losers. I'm like, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Even John Bolton, who hates him,
Right.
came out and said, and I think whatever general that was with him, if he had said that in front of a general, that would have leaked. I said, so 3 years later, all of a sudden that comes out and everything. So no, he did not say that. He would have never disrespected it that way. And they've even come out a couple of weeks ago. I heard Glenn Beck talking about, he had a guest on talking about January 6th. And there is proof several days before in writing, General Milley, who doesn't like Trump, said, yes, he was like, I don't care how many people you have to get there, military, 10,000, National Guard, we need to have people there to protect it. And they didn't do it purposely.
Right. I know. I know. I agree. The other thing too is just really like interesting. Like I have a friend who's a comedian, and he was like, yeah, you know, we were talking about like conservatives, but he's like, yeah, DeSantis like banned Holocaust books in Florida. So I'm like, wait, let me look that up. So I look it up. And there's one comic book about the Holocaust that they banned because it didn't meet the standards of seriousness that they require when discussing the Holocaust. And so the media spun it as DeSantis is banning Holocaust education. I mean, imagine. And people believe it.
Like the Don't Say Gay bill that nothing has ever said that.
Yes. But I mean, this one is just one book that was a comic book that didn't take the Holocaust seriously enough. And that's the one book that was banned. And the media says that DeSantis is banning Holocaust education, and everyone believes it. I mean, it is like, I've just learned when anybody makes a claim, I'm like, please hold. And I just go research it. And then I come back, I'm like, no, actually, that's false. Next.
Right.
Like,
and the sad thing is that there's still people, once again, as you know, when you present the facts, that it's just such a hard time, cognitive dissonance. They just do not want to go anything outside of their comfort zone to try to believe anything.
Yeah.
I have several other questions I want to talk to you about, and I've taken up an hour of your time. If possible, we have a few weeks before the election, even if it's like the week before.
Yeah, let's do it.
I would love to have you come back on one more time to talk about it, because I think we can influence some voters, because I have a lot of good questions for you.
I love it. Let's do it for sure.
Thank you so much for coming on, Doc, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Michael. See you soon.
Okay. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye.
Thank you.